Well, it's summer, so movies are usually a pretty popular thing to do in the summer, and it's winding down though. But Brandon, anything good you've seen this summer? Any movies that you think we should talk about?
I mean, I've seen quite a few of the big ones. I've seen Fantastic Four. I've seen Superman. I saw The Naked Gun, which I liked a lot. But I want to talk Happy Gilmore 2. That's kind of been like the buzziest movie of the past few weeks, I feel like. It's like this Netflix release, not at the movie theaters, but that's what everybody's been talking about. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I watched it. I watched it the day it came out because, my age, I think I was about 13 years old when Happy Gilmore, the original, came out. I've probably seen the original a good 5-6 times. I was ready for the sequel, so definitely saw it. What did you think?
I thought it was okay. Look, was it a good movie? Of course it wasn't a good movie. We knew it wasn't going to be a good movie. But was it a fun movie? Did I enjoy it? Did I like it? Did it make me nostalgic? Yes, yes, and yes. Like, I thought it was a fun movie. Was it dumb? Of course. But I had fun with it. Did you have fun with it? I thought the cameos and all that were great.
Perfectly well said. Yeah, no, it was not a good movie. Was it a stupid movie? Absolutely. But that's exactly what Happy Gilmore, the first one, was. Right. You don't watch Happy Gilmore, the first one, and think, wow, really well done plot and story and, so believable. It's supposed to be ridiculous. And they did a great job of making the second one even just as ridiculous, if not even more ridiculous. And I'm with you on the cameos. I loved all the cameos. What was your favorite?
My favorite, I thought that John Daly was really funny. Like his kind of recurring. He almost had more than a cameo because he was in it quite a bit. But I kind of like the running joke there. I thought Eminem, like just completely out of character and being goofy, was kind of funny. I can't remember all the golfers' names, but who's like the great golfer right now? This dude was really hilarious. There were a bunch of great golfers in it. But my wife, she knows golfers better than I do. She's like, yeah, he's like the biggest golfer right now. I was like, oh, that dude's pretty funny.
Talking about Scotty Scheffler?
That's who it was. Thank you.
Yeah. Number 1 ranked golfer. Pretty big deal.
Yeah. That's why I'm on a basketball pod and not a golf pod, John. My beginning and end of my golf knowledge.
That's fair. That's fair. I think my wife did not catch all the golf cameos where I know a lot of the golfers, and so I did appreciate many of those golfer cameos. But I did like the cameos where it wasn't like obvious, right? They just sort of like mixed these big named stars or athletes into the movie. They weren't playing themselves. Like, Travis Kelce, the really rude and awful head waiter. I mean, that kind of stuff was fun. I really did enjoy it.
Yeah, which, by the way, Travis Kelce was funny. But speaking of Travis Kelce, I love that you scheduled this podcast, John, on the same night that Travis Kelce has Taylor Swift coming on his podcast. So good luck to New Heights and their podcast tonight, going up against the Daily Thunder podcast tonight.
Well, I guess they might get some more listeners than we do, but we'll do our best to attract listeners with this really detailed breakdown of Happy Gilmore 2. Exactly why people wanted to listen to the Daily Thunder podcast.
Exactly.
Welcome back to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, publisher of Daily Thunder, and I'll be your host today. Alongside me is Daily Thunder beat writer Brandon Rahbar. Brandon, how are you this middle of August?
I'm doing well. I got to say, this is kind of the height of like non-basketball news. Like we, had the championship, we had the draft, we had summer league, we had free agency, and now we're down to like watching Brooks Barnheiser and Thomas Sorber highlights on YouTube.
Is that what you've been doing?
That and prepping for fantasy football. That's pretty much been what I've been doing sports-wise lately.
I was gonna say, if you're sitting around watching Brooks Barnheiser YouTube clips, you're into it. You're dialed in.
I'm deep into the weeds. I feel like I always got to be doing something Thunder and NBA related. I will say, though, like I know we're going to talk about it on this episode. We did get some news with some schedule release stuff, so I'm excited about that. The full schedule will drop tomorrow, but it's fun to see the Thunder in all these big, highlight games and nationally televised games.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely on the agenda. We're also going to talk about the Thunder cap situation. I'm going to ask you to provide your power rankings, maybe for the top 10 NBA teams going into this season. And we might close with a little bit of, non-basketball but Thunder-related news. Like, for example, somebody got married just recently. But starting with the cap situation, I was looking at the numbers, and we know for sure that the Thunder's big three core is going to be with the team until at least 2031 or signed through 2031. But we also know that for this next 25-26 season, the entire team is essentially back, but with the addition of Thomas Sorber under contract, and you have Brooks Barnhizer on a two-way, you have Brandon Carlson on a two-way. So the repeat goal is off to a great start because the same team that won a championship is the same team that we'll see in 25-26. If you look at the 26-27 season, we have Chet and JDub's contract extension kick in, Shea's final year of his current deal, and the Thunder are well over the cap. They go into the 26-27 season over both the first and second apron and well into the luxury tax. Maybe starting off with that, do you think that's where the Thunder are going to end up at the end of that league year?
I do not. I think they'll make some moves. First of all, looking at the 26-27 cap, it's kind of funny to see Shea as the third highest paid player because JDub and Chet's rookie max extensions put them just past Shea by like $500,000. Obviously the big thing here is the Isaiah Hartenstein cap hit. He'll be making $28.5 million that year, but that is a team option. So that's where we'll see some decisions made. The Thunder will need to make a decision on Lou Dort. Obviously, Alex Caruso will be making $19.5 million that year. And then, look, the Thunder has some flexibility here because Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins on very team-friendly, nice contracts. But you get down to decisions like, okay, do we want to pay Joe and Wiggins, a little over $20 million, $20.5 million a year together, or would we rather keep Isaiah Hartenstein for that year at $28.5 million? You know what I mean? Like, there's some decisions that can be made. I think that the Thunder, because it's going to be the first year that they dip into the tax, they do have some flexibility. It's not just all of a sudden dire. And you can dip into the tax a little bit. You can dip into the apron a little bit. You don't want to stay there. You don't want those repeater bills. So, no, I do not absolutely think that they'll go into the second apron that year. They'll make some sort of decisions there on Hartenstein, Dort, and Joe and Wiggins. I think those are the contracts that you really want to look at.
Yeah, and by current projections, the Thunder are going to be about $24 million over that second apron level. As you noted, Isaiah Hartenstein's contract is $28.5, but there are several other team options that are out there for the Thunder, including Lou Dort, Kenny Hustle, Cason Wallace, and Topic are all team options going into the 26-27 season. Now, we did start off with that positive note that we know everybody's going to be back for this upcoming season. For the following season, when the Thunder are going for a three-peat, it seems pretty clear that there are going to be roster changes then. We're not going to get the same team for a third year in a row.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just going to be near impossible to make happen. But here's what I would say. The important thing is you have the big three under contract. And this year, that should be like their best year of their collective prime because Chet and JDub will just be entering their prime. Shea will be in the middle of his prime. And that will be a formidable big three, the best big three in the league. You can say it's the best big three in the league right now. I think it is. And they'll be even better 2 years from now when all this happens. And you're still going to be able to keep some of these, role players, some of these really great players like Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace, Joe Wiggins. Some of these guys are still going to be here. I would imagine, like, the easiest thing is just, letting Isaiah Hartenstein go. And there's some options there as well, by the way. But if you let go of his $28.5 million contract, and that's why you go and get a Thomas Sorber, and he's going to have a full year to learn under Hartenstein and Chet and Jay Will. Really talented dude, has a lot of similarities game-wise, strengths and weaknesses as Isaiah Hartenstein. So, if he's ready to take that role, that problem kind of solves itself. But I will say there's a possibility, maybe they do the decline and sign Hartenstein thing. Maybe he signs for, a longer contract at that point, declines to $28.5 million. Let's say they sign him for, we'll throw out a number, $24 million for the next 3 years. But then you trade away Joe and Wiggins, so you kind of balance that salary there. So you give up 2 depth pieces in Wiggins and Joe, but you get to keep Isaiah Hartenstein if you feel like he's that important to keep. You know what I'm saying? Like, the team has options. So many team options, so much flexibility. Presti has built this as well as you can build this to have a sustainable contender for years and years to come.
Absolutely, and I'm going to come back to that. But you were talking about Lou Dort. Lou Dort was extension eligible. I think a question that we had this summer, we knew SGA, JDub, and Chet were the priorities on extensions. Each of those players got an extension. But Dort was the question mark. Would they try to extend him this summer? I guess the answer to that question is no. You agree with that?
Yeah, it looks like it's no. It seems like if that were to happen, it would have already happened. Of course, there's a lot of time before the season starts, so it could absolutely still happen. This is, the other ones were kind of no-brainers. It just, we saw, the extra work with the escalators was only question marks, and those, very team-friendly deals that they did with Chet and JDub, but of course they also got rewarded with Maxes, so it was a win-win. Shay's was a no-brainer. You or me could have negotiated that deal and got that deal done. That's why he didn't need an agent. Lou Dort's is maybe, there's a little bit more to it, and so that could still happen. I imagine it probably won't. Look, this team loves Lou Dort. Lou Dort loves being here. I think that they want to work something out probably long term, but what will that contract look like ultimately? That I have no idea. I would kind of use Alex Caruso's, extension as kind of a basis, because you could, say that they're very similar players, on this team and their impact and those kind of things. But that is me just taking a wild guess. I don't take that as any sort of, informed insider, opinion at all.
Well, and to go back to your comment about the way that the roster has been constructed, the way the contracts have been constructed, a lot of credit to Sam Presti in what's been accomplished here. And it's not just blowing smoke. I mean, it's the envy of the league to have your 3 top players under contract long-term while preserving all this flexibility that the team had. And, when all those extensions were signed, the chatter around the league was, oh, no, there's no way the team can afford this. The repeater penalties, the aprons, they're going to come back and bite the Thunder. Now, looking at where we are in 26, 27, there's so many options for the team. But long-term, do you agree with that? Are the Thunder going to be in trouble because they doled out so much money to SGA, JDub, and Chet?
Absolutely not. Do not agree with that whatsoever. They're not going to be in trouble. If you ask the 29 other GMs, would you sign SGA, Chet, and JDub to maxes? And, Chet includes 0 escalators, so he can make any sort of all-NBA team or defensive player of the year, and it doesn't change his contract. And JDub gets the 1% escalators for third NBA, 2% for second team all-NBA, and the full max for first team all-NBA. 29 other GMs would all happily rush to sign those 3 guys to max deals, 100%. You're talking about Shea, who's coming off an MVP season, JDub, who's 24 years old, third team All-NBA, second team All-Defense, and second best player on a title team, and Chet, who's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate at 23 years old, absolutely all-star and All-NBA worthy player. They're all going to rush to sign those guys. It's the best position you can be in to sign these 3 guys long-term at this age, at their skill level.
Yeah, and now let's look ahead at 27, 28, maybe some of the future years, kind of wrap those in. Again, with the SGA extension kicking in 27, 28, and you've got the Chet and JDub extensions on the books. The Thunder are already, pretty close to the cap just with those three salaries. Quite a bit of money committed to those three players. And with the players that are actually under contract, they will start under both the first and second apron and just barely over the projected tax. But that wouldn't be a complete roster. Those are just 11 players who the Thunder could potentially have under contract with either extensions or club options or existing contracts. It seems like the Thunder are going to be in the tax in 27, 28. They're going to be in the tax in 26, 27. Notably, they are not in the tax in this upcoming season. So that's 2 years in a row in the tax. And then 28, 29, almost certainly going to be a tax team as well to fill out the roster with the SGA, JDub, and Chet extensions. So all the way out to 29, 30, the Thunder might be in that repeater tax situation. They will have SGA, Chet, and JDub under contract. They have nobody else under contract for 29, 30. Is that when, things are going to get a little bit dicey for the Thunder?
I mean, dicey, I guess, is relative. Dicey for what this team will have been for the last several years. At this point, yes, because things will change. And, they've got a lot of talent. They've got a lot of good players, and those players need to get paid and will get paid, whether by the Thunder or another team. But this is where all those draft picks come into play. And, the Thunder are not going to hit on every single draft pick. But if they can hit on one out of every 3 draft picks, that's a success because you're instilling talent and surrounding the big 3 with young, cheap players for years. Look at Thomas Sorber and Nikola Topic. If those guys can hit, if one of those guys hits, that's big. You got A.J. Mitchell. That looks like a hit already. You got him for the next 3 years on a great deal. And that's why you sign Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe to those great deals. And whether that's to keep them long term at those deals to have some talent around the big 3, or whether it's to, trade those off for other assets and get younger and get maybe a little bit cheaper. You have all these options. But everybody thought that the Thunder were going to use all these draft picks to make a big swing, to get a superstar, to become a contender. They became a contender and won a championship without trading any of those draft picks for any sort of stars. And I think that the plan is going to be to use those draft picks, whether it's kicking picks down the road or using those draft picks on players, to instill and surround the big 3 with young talent. I think that they will always be in a situation where they're going to have these big 3 and some talent around them, but that talent will change. Will it be Caruso and Cason Wallace? Or will it be, Cason Wallace and Topic and Sorber? There's going to be some sort of combination of all these different players. But as long as you have these 3 guys in your prime with some other really solid role players around them and talent around them, the Thunder are going to be in a great position. But yeah, obviously the team's going to get very, very expensive. Also, one other thing, at some point the CBA rules are going to change. And we'll see what, new changes that will bring about. Positive, negative, or neutral.
Yeah, that's right. The players can opt out of the current CBA after the 28-29 season, so that 29-30 season where the potential repeater tax penalties could come into play, there might be a totally new CBA. I think most people expect that the current CBA will not be extended by the players. They will opt out after that 28-29 season. So really, another tip of the hat to Sam Presti in that, look, the team has the flexibility and the tools to keep the core intact and keep a really competitive team through at least 28-29. And then, maybe for the first time in Thunder history, a new CBA could end up benefiting the team. Cross our fingers there, because that's when the harsher repeater penalties are likely to come into play for the team. And then you also mentioned the draft picks, and I'm glad you mentioned the draft picks because, yeah, it would have been great if the Thunder needed to add somebody. They can package those picks to go add a veteran player to bolster the roster. Clearly, that's not needed after a championship-winning season. And so now those are assets, so you can get cheap contracts that aren't going to, they're not penalized by the apron, right? You can draft your own players with the picks that you have. You can re-sign your own guys. And so the harsher restrictions on the first and second apron, even if the Thunder are in that range, aren't going to be as killer on OKC as it would another team.
That's exactly right. And look, we've seen even with the Denver Nuggets recently after they won their championship and they needed to add cheap talent, they actually looked to the Thunder to make a deal. Thunder kicked some picks down the road and gave them, first-round draft picks. But they're trying to do it with end of the first round type guys like a Peyton Watson, hoping those type of guys, Julian Strother, those type of guys will fill in the talent around, their core. And, that may or may not work, obviously. But the Thunder will not only have their own picks, but, they have these Clippers picks and these Rockets picks and these 76ers picks, and Nuggets picks and a Mavs swap and things like that. Like when you have so many picks from so many different teams, they're not all going to be into the first round picks. Some of these are going to be, like we've seen, Thomas Sorber at number 15 or Cason Wallace, which was 12 and then traded up to 10, things like that. JDub was 12. Your odds increase to find an impact player on a rookie contract when your draft picks are spread throughout the league amongst different teams for years and years down the road. So this thing is constructed as well as it can possibly be constructed. So, obviously the team is going to get expensive, but this team has already won a championship, and they are going to be a championship contending team for as long as Shea, Dub, and Chet are here and in their prime. And right now we know that goes until at least 2031. And they're going to have talent around them. They're going to have young talent around them. They're going to have draft pick options. And like you said, they are due to get a favor from the CBA because they have twice been messed over. I know the Hoop Collective talked about it last night on their pod. I'm glad they brought it up. Windhorst brought it up with the KD contract rose rule, retroactive, and then that, cap spike where the Warriors were able to sign KD twice. They've been messed over by a new CBA rule, so they are due, right, to get some love from the CBA, the next one.
Yeah, and I think the takeaway here, and the reason I wanted to talk about this at the top of the pod is, there's a lot of reasons to be excited about this upcoming season coming off the championship. But I'm going to sleep better at night knowing that not only do we have this season, we have next season, we have probably all the way till at least 28, 29, feeling really confident that this team is going to be a major contender. And as you noted, as long as SGA, JDub, and Chet are in uniform for the Thunder, likely to be an incredibly good and contending team, even to 2031, with the hope that maybe we get a favor from the CBA. So, yeah, to the casual fans who maybe don't follow the tax, don't understand what the first and second apron in, which I assume probably even hardcore fans don't understand the different aprons and tax and all the requirements under the current CBA. Your takeaway can be sleep easy. This team has a long runway. It is well constructed, and Sam Presti has done a masterful job to make sure that by the time that new arena opens, there's probably still going to be this team has competed for multiple championships.
100%. This team just won a championship, and they are in the best position over the next half decade in the NBA to compete for more championships. So the Thunder are the best position any team in the NBA is right now and for the foreseeable future.
Well, let's go back to now this upcoming season. There's been a trickle of some of the marquee national TV games that have been announced by the league. The big one, and I'm sure we're all excited about it, because if you go back to your childhood and you heard the NBA on NBC theme, that felt like real basketball. If you were watching the NBA on NBC, that was the marquee game, and the Thunder open on NBC to that theme music against the Rockets on October 21st. How excited are you for that?
I cannot tell you how pumped I am. This is so exciting. Like you said, growing up an NBA fan, that was like the NBA theme music as far as like NBA fans from the 80s and 90s are concerned. But basketball. I seen that the Thunder, like the Thunder didn't even exist the last time there was NBA on NBC. And now their first game in 23 and a half years is going to be in Oklahoma City, as the team in Oklahoma City that didn't exist is getting their championship rings with KD in the house watching. Like, this is like the perfect scenario for Thunder fans. This is absolutely, I think if you would have asked 100 Thunder fans, what team would be your choice for the Thunder to play on opening night when the Thunder get their rings, and what network would you want it to be on? Every single one of those fans would have said the Rockets and KD and the NBA on NBC making their return. It's perfect.
Yeah, I've got chills just thinking about it. I'm sure the chills are really going to ring through my body on October 21st when I hear that opening theme music. And then not 2 nights later for the Thunder's second game of the season, they're also on national TV. So the first 2 games of the year are on national TV. That one is Thunder in Indianapolis against the Pacers in a finals rematch. Schedule makers, I mean, I think so far they look like they're doing a pretty good job. 2 games in.
The schedule makers are nailing it so far. Like, I think that every Thunder fan thought that the Thunder were ripped off a bit last year as far as national TV games go. They got quite a bit, and then they got flexed to quite a few as the NBA scrambled and realized, we need to put this team on more often. This guy's going to win the MVP, and this team might win the championship. We need to put them on more. So they kind of like error corrected halfway through the season. But it's very apparent seeing these trickling of games so far, the fact that the Thunder are on all these big nights, nationally televised, that they are going to be on national TV a lot this year.
Yeah, and then looking ahead to Christmas, which is the sort of the big NBA day where all eyes are on the league for a holiday. It's Spurs versus Thunder in Oklahoma City. It's the marquee afternoon ABC game on Christmas Day. Your tweet about it, you did say the Thunder are officially back. Funny thing to say about a team that just won a championship.
Yeah, but it feels like, seeing those Christmas Day promos with the Christmas music and the Christmas graphics. I know they just won a championship, so they should have already been officially back. But now that they're in the Christmas promos, that's when I feel like they've officially arrived. I think that's actually what Sam Presti was talking about when he said they want to make an arrival. I think he was talking about the Christmas Day promos. So they have now officially made their arrival. I'm actually really excited that it's going to be the Spurs and Chet versus Wemby. I know that, some fans probably feel like this is a forced thing from the NBA, making Chet and Wemby a thing. But I think it's a real thing. I think the Spurs are going to become a contending team sooner rather than later. Probably not this season, but the next few seasons. And obviously Chet and Wemby, I think for their careers are always going to be, compared and contrasted against each other because of the type of players they are and the impact players that they are. And you got the whole Oklahoma, Texas thing, obviously. So I like that it's going to be Thunder Spurs, Chet Wemby. I think that's a great matchup, and I think it's going to become like kind of one of those marquee matchups that we see going forward because both these teams are going to be really good. So yeah, I'm excited to see this matchup.
Well, then some of the best games last year, really across the league, and one of the most hyped games were the Thunder Cavs games, and that's the last big national TV day that's been announced is the Thunder playing in Cleveland on MLK Day, also an NBC game. Good call?
Yeah, I think it's a great call. I mean, if you had to right now pick an NBA championship, the NBA Finals for next year, I think the Thunder would be most people's pick from the West. And in the East, you probably have 2 legitimate threats, and that's the Cavs and the Knicks. So this is a potential Finals matchup. So yeah, it's a great matchup. All 4 of the games that were leaked that the Thunder are involved in on national TV, I think are great choices.
Well, a lot to look forward to for this upcoming season. And now let's move on. And you kind of just briefly touched on the fact that Kevin Durant's going to be in Oklahoma City for the ring ceremony with the Rockets. But let's talk a little bit of NBA and Thunder culture right now. So social media was abuzz about that matchup, and Kevin Durant decided to start responding to random people on Twitter. First off, how do you feel about Kevin Durant, talking to the randoms on Twitter?
Got to be honest. I thought it was kind of funny, like that he's, this is, we talked about at the beginning of this podcast that this is kind of like the down days of the NBA. We're just kind of looking for things to do that are NBA related, whether it's watching Thomas Sorver highlights or trying to make your, power rankings, whatever it is. And for KD, he's bored right now, and so he's talking to fans on Twitter. Here's why I kind of like it. This game, this opening night game, is already going to be such a huge storyline. One, because the Thunder are on, NBA on NBC and their return, and it's banner night and ring night, and that's where most of the attention should obviously be. But KD being in the house for that game is an obvious, huge storyline that's going to be talked about. And he's only adding like fuel to the fire. Like, this is only going to pump Thunder fans up that much more for opening night. And, the kind of reception that he's going to get from fans, because he's kind of stoking the fire with the Twitter replies.
Yeah, he really is. And I'm sure the graphics team at NBC is already working up these Twitter comments for that opening night game. But let me ask you, one of the things that he commented on is somebody said, "Do you think OKC should retire your jersey?" Kevin Durant's response was, "You don't want me to answer this, but I will say Muse pages and Stan accounts don't make none of these decisions." Now, if you could make the decision, would you retire Kevin Durant's jersey?
Now, see, this is difficult because of this, this latest string of tweets where he's kind of stoking the fire. The whole, it's been 10 years. It's about time. First of all, let me reply to that. The reason it kind of reminds me, I don't know if you've seen Bloodsport, but it kind of reminds me of that. Like Jean-Claude Van Damme, the big fight at the end, the villain character blinds him illegally with some chalk or dust that he throws into his eyes, so Van Damme can't see. And then he's kind of mocking him to the crowd and pumping up. I'm yeah, you're winning because you handicapped him. He can't see. And you're kind of ribbing him because he's down because you cheated. Anyways, Van Damme comes back and wins the big fight. Anyways, it kind of reminds me of that. KD leaves the team and the Thunder don't get anything back for him. And he goes to the best team, the team that just won 73 games. And so that's the reason why they can't contend for a few years. And then you're going to make fun of that team. The fact that the Thunder rebounded and rebuilt despite not getting anything back for maybe the best asset in the NBA at the time is just incredible. The fact that they've won a championship after rebuilding so quickly is remarkable. So I think that comment was wild. But it is what it is. What was your original question? I got distracted by that.
Should OKC retire Kevin Durant's jersey?
That's right. Sorry, I went on a Bloodsport rabbit hole for some reason. That's the way my brain works. I think that KD was saying all the right things until the summer. He had said some really nice things about the organization and about this current team. On Twitter and in interviews over the last several years. And the Thunder, they win a championship. I think fans and the organization, all that, have moved on. And you win a championship and it's kind of whatever from the past because now you have a title. And it feels like fans had, started to move on for the most part. And then you just kind of stoke it again. I think ultimately down the road, if KD doesn't keep taking, if he doesn't keep poking the bear, whether it be at the team, the organization, or the fans, then I think his jersey should ultimately be retired because that era was great and what he meant to the team and to the city during that era was great. Obviously, what he did, the way he left, who he went to, and all those things, obviously not good. But I do think that ultimately he should be retired, his jersey, unless he just keeps stoking. You can't just poke the bear and expect your jersey to be retired. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, and I don't know how I feel about it. Sitting here today with the Thunder having won a championship led by SGA, winning an MVP, winning Western Conference Finals MVP, winning NBA Finals MVP. I mean, certainly if you're retiring a jersey, SGA's jersey is the first and should be ahead of Kevin's jersey to be retired. And if the Thunder hadn't won a championship, right, and Kevin Durant's retired, I might say, yeah, you retire his jersey, you hang it from the rafters because of what he meant to the city. The fact that the team has now won a championship and it's fully moved on from that era, and not really the fault of Kevin Durant that they didn't win a championship. I think there were a lot of other factors there, but I think it seems different now that you have a championship and you have an MVP who has won a championship. And I think that makes his legacy a little bit less than it would have been otherwise.
I agree with that. It's a very tough situation, and that's why it's hard for, I think, both of us to answer. Because you look at the accomplishments, winning MVP, multiple scoring titles, tons of All-Stars and All-NBAs, 4 Western Conference Finals, and a finals trip. Like, just for that, like 99 times out of 100, you retire that jersey. But the fact that he left, how he left, the things he said about, the team since he's left, obviously changes all of that. And I think if you were to, make a decision today, you don't retire the jersey because of the latest, things that have been said. It's ultimately, to me, like if you talk about the organization and team in a negative light, like why should that team retire your jersey despite any sort of accomplishments? But if time moves on, 10 years down the road, after he's retired, whatever it may be, and he's interviewed about the Thunder and he says good things and positive things and it reflects positively on that time, then that's a different conversation. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you can retire a jersey if you're actively kind of, poking the fans online, I guess I'll say.
Yeah, well, and Kevin Durant is fully in his villain era, and I think that's maybe his most comfortable spot. We are a long way from Kevin Durant with a backpack and a Bible inside of it. And I mean, because he's gone after Warriors fans. He's now going after Suns fans. I mean, I think he's ready to burn bridges wherever he leaves.
Yeah, no, it looks like it. Like, and if you do that, like, how do these teams retire your jersey? Like, I just don't see how it's possible. Like, maybe, and we'll see what happens with the Rockets. If he were to lead the Rockets to a championship, which I don't think will happen. I think they're going to be a very good team. I think they'll be a contender. I think they're in the hunt. But I think that the Thunder and the Nuggets are better. If he were to lead them to a championship, though, and he retires as a Rocket, he probably, gets his jersey retired in Houston and, just let that be. And that's that, I think, at that point. So we'll see. I guess there's still some boxes to be filled as far as this whole, legacy, KD's legacy and the NBA and all these different teams go. And we'll kind of see post-retirement KD, how active he is on social media and what he's saying at that point.
Yeah. Well, there was one funny response, or at least it made me laugh. He went back and forth with this fan named Drew. Drew said, "You're the one on here arguing with random people while telling everybody that you're fine. Like I said, enjoy the party opening night, Cupcake." And Kevin Durant's response was, "I wasn't arguing with you, though. Obviously, you're lashing out right now and in need of my attention. Go stare at the championship parade photos," and this is what made me laugh, "and have a peppermint tea." I don't know why. This is really nice advice from Kevin Durant. Yeah, go look at those photos, which, I do on a regular basis, and maybe I'm just going to have a peppermint tea with it. Seems like a really nice night.
And that's why, like, most of the, and that's why I guess I'm not too upset at, like, his tweets, because I think honestly he was just kind of trolling, and I think that he was just kind of like, there's rage baiters and trolls and things like that, and I think he's just kind of playing that role. So I think a lot of it was tongue in cheek. Like even it took him 10 years. to win a championship. It's about, I think that was tongue in cheek. Like, I'm not at all like in like defend Kevin Durant mode or anything. That's not what I'm saying. I think he's just trolling. I think he's an NBA player who gets bored and goes on and trolls fans. And like you said, is in his villain era. I think that's all he's doing.
Speaking of former Thunder players, but players who are beloved by the organization, what do you think is going to happen with Russ? What's his landing spot going to be?
I think it's going to be the Kings. There's been a lot of smoke that it's going to be the Kings, and it makes sense. It's crazy. This is going to be – I'm losing count of how many different teams this is going to be that Russ is going to be on. And, we all thought that Russ was going to be a lifer in Oklahoma City. Obviously, things happen the way they did, best for OKC and best for Russ. I know a lot of fans want to see Russ come back to Oklahoma City. I totally understand why, but I do think that Russ still – can play a big part on a playoff team and have a big role on a playoff team, but it just doesn't make sense on this Thunder team for a number of reasons. I think the minutes that he probably still deserves, the Thunder don't have those minutes to give up, and the Thunder want to, give those minutes to young talent like AJ Mitchell and Nikola Topic, have those guys lead the bench, be the playmakers off the bench. So it doesn't make sense at this point for Russ to come back to Oklahoma City. I think he ends up in Sacramento. And look, the Kings I don't think are a playoff team, but they're certainly a play-in contending team. And I think with their current roster construction, Russ makes a lot of sense for them.
And I guess another point guard for the Thunder, former point guard, Josh Giddey. He was what the Bulls wanted when they gave up Alex Caruso. And now it seems like they're at odds trying to get him re-signed to another deal.
Yeah, it sounds like from what's been leaked, and you always have to take both sides with a grain of salt, but it sounds like Josh is looking for somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 million, which would line up with his caliber of player, at his age and his role. It sounds like the Bulls are offering around $20 million a year. My guess, ultimately, the Bulls don't make this trade if they're not going to sign him long term, and he showed a lot of promise, especially after the All-Star break for the Bulls. They're rebuilding. They're going to be a young team, and Josh Giddey makes a lot of sense for them. They probably end up meeting in the middle. I would guess around $25 million a year would be my guess.
Well, coincidentally, yeah, they say that the Bulls are offering about $20 million a year, but that's what Alex Caruso is making, about $20 million a year. So. Yeah, maybe it was supposed to be a one-for-one trade in the Bulls' mind. Speaking of Alex Caruso got married to Haley Brocker, and I guess to some degree Chet Holmgren made some waves with his outfit. What did you think about him wearing white?
I thought it was great. I thought he looked good. Like I saw like the tweets, like people, kind of ragging him for what he was wearing. I thought it looked nice. Like, look, I'm no fashion guy whatsoever, and I'm colorblind. So I'm probably the worst person to pose this question to. But in my colorblind, non-fashion sense, I thought he looked good. He looked a little bit like Tony Montana, but I thought it was a good look on him.
Yeah, and I don't know if, it's against the rules for a guy to wear white. It's more other women shouldn't wear white to someone else's wedding. And I think I saw that Zach LaVine was wearing white to the wedding as well. But yeah, Chet has his own style, right? He's got a look that he's going for. It's unique, and it is especially his. And I think Chet should just own it. He should be himself.
Agreed. I like that he's himself. It reminds me like Steven Adams. He had his own style. It's too bad that Steven Adams was never teammates with Alex Caruso, because I would have liked to seen his suit and sandals look that he wore to a wedding.
Yeah. One other thing that I guess I wanted to mention, I think you've seen in the photos, like Brandon Carlson was at Alex Caruso's wedding. What does that say about the team camaraderie where the two-way Carlson is at the wedding?
Yeah, it really is cool. This team truly embraces all members, like 1 through 18, but it's really even more than 18 because, those two-way contract guys, there were other guys throughout the season who were part of the team, and they're still close, but absolutely, they travel together. It's not like typical two-way contract guys. Like, they are so absorbed within the team and what the team's doing. They're not just with the G League. Like Brandon Carlson was a part of this team. Adam Flagler was a part of this team. Brooks Barnheiser is going to be a part of this team. And I don't think they look at them as 1 through 15 and then 1 through 3, the two-way contract guys like Carlson. I think they see him as one of 18.
Definitely. All right, well, that was a fun little segment on the culture. Let's close by doing some power rankings. So I'm going to have you give your top 10 NBA teams as we sit here today going into the 25-26 season. I don't know if you've got your list ready because I gave you a preview, or are you going to take it off the top of your head? So do you want to start at number 10 or do you want to start at number 1, the obvious?
Let's start with the obvious because that's not going to be any sort of surprise. No, let's do start at 10 because, the grand finale, we'll save the best for last, right?
Well, yeah, because we want to see who you have at number 2, really. So that will be a good lead up to who's number 2 on your list. But number 10.
Number 10, I have – now this is tough. I have the Orlando Magic at number 10. And spoiler alert, there's only 3 East teams in my top 10, and they just squeaked in at number 10. At number 9, I have the Minnesota Wolves. And that's a 2-time Western Conference Finals team, but I just have them at number 9. That is how deep the West is, I believe, this season. At number 8, I have the Golden State Warriors. Some people might think that's kind of high, but if you look at their record after they got Jimmy Butler last year, it was really, really good. And I think a full season of Curry, Butler, and Draymond, they'll be a really solid team. At number what number am I at? Number 7?
7.
Number 7, I have the Los Angeles Lakers. Number 6, I have the Los Angeles Clippers. Number 5, I have the New York Knicks. Number 4, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. And my top 3 are all West teams. I have the Rockets at 3, the Nuggets at 2, and the Oklahoma City Thunder at number 1.
All right, so you do go with the Nuggets at number 2 over the Houston Rockets and Kevin Durant.
I think that they are basically in the same tier, and it wouldn't surprise me if either one of those finished above the other. I kind of think – look, here's how I view their off seasons. I know the Rockets were the number 2 seed in the West, but I think the Nuggets were the number 2 best team in the West last year. The Nuggets got better through depth. The Rockets, I think, went from kind of a pretender contending team. I don't think anybody took them seriously as a number 2 seed last year. It was just, they fought hard. They had a great defense, and they were a regular season team, but they needed a Kevin Durant to become a true contender. So I think they've become a true contender. I think you could swap either one of those. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Rockets be a little bit better regular season team, but in the playoffs, I would say the Nuggets would scare me a little bit more than the Rockets do.
And, maybe as a testament how quickly things can change, the Pacers, who went to the finals, aren't going to be in the top 10. The Celtics, who were a trendy finals pick going into last season, aren't in the top 10. And, injuries are probably to blame for those two teams not having a window going into this next season.
Yeah, I mean, the East took a huge hit by losing Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, just look, the NBA sees it too. Of the 10 teams that are playing on Christmas, only 2 are from the East and 8 are from the West. That tells you everything you need to know about how the NBA views the conference imbalance right now with Tatum and Halliburton especially being out. And then Giannis, losing Dame. I know they added Miles Turner, but it's hard to take them seriously. I have Orlando squeaking in at number 10, but if the Mavs are healthy, honestly, I think the Mavs are a better team than the Magic if the Mavs are healthy. So then all of a sudden I would only have 2 East teams in the top 10 if the Mavs are healthy. Or if the Spurs take a leap, I could see them being better than the Magic, and that could definitely happen. I think the Hawks are probably the 4th best team in the East. They improved a lot. The West is just – the West has always been better, but I think this year with the injuries to the East and the West somehow improving even more, the West is going to be a lot better than the East this season. No East teams are playing on opening night. All 4 teams are from the West.
Yeah, and that's going to be a theme throughout the season, leading up to the season, is just how good the West is and how competitive it's going to be. So as a defending title team, the Thunder have their work cut out for them. I think it's going to be a difficult road to repeat. I guess some might say it might be the hardest road.
Nice. Way to wrap it all around, full circle.
That's right. That's right. Well, despite this being a little bit of the quiet time in the NBA season, we found plenty to talk about. So, good show, Brandon. Nice work.
Yeah, this was fun. This was a nice little break from fantasy football prep. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, anytime. And yeah, we're going to have to set our draft for our league coming up soon. And maybe I should look at my roster.
You
See
should.
if I have any keepers.
I'll tell you right now, my keepers are I got Ladd McConkey in the 8th round and Malik Neighbors in the 3rd round. So I'm feeling pretty good about my keepers.
Well, very good. And, I'm going to try to turn my brain on for football. I'm just not there yet. I really am just still glowing in the aftermath of a championship season. As
somebody who's in your fantasy football league, take your time putting your football brain back on. Enjoy the championship. Don't even worry about fantasy football at all. Don't prep whatsoever.
Oh, well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, host of the podcast, and he's Brandon Rahbar, Daily Thunder beat writer. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe to the Daily Thunder podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you're liking what you're hearing, do us a favor and leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcast. And we'll be back in your feed soon.